Have you ever tried to figure out college financing? It can feel like you're trying to solve a giant, impossible puzzle, in the dark. It's this huge, complicated system, and it affects millions of us. So today, we're going to flip on the lights. Let's dive in and figure out who is actually supposed to be watching all this money.
Right, to get a sense of the scale we are talking about, just look at this number. As of 2024, the U.S. federal student loan portfolio is a staggering 1.6 times trillion dollars. That's a T. It's more than the entire economy of a lot of countries, all wrapped up in our quest for higher education. It's just massive. And that really leads to the biggest question of all, doesn't it? When you're dealing with a system this huge, managing that much money, who's actually in charge of making sure it works? Who's looking out for the students and the taxpayers, putting all this money on the line?
Well, the official answer to that question isn't a single person or office. It's a complex partnership between three different groups. Let's get into what the government calls the Program Integrity Triad.
Okay, the best way to think about this triad is like a three-legged stool. For the whole thing to be stable and work right, you need all three legs. You've got state governments, private accrediting agencies, and the federal government. Each one has its own job to do to keep colleges accountable. But if one of those legs gets wobbly, the whole system can start to tip over.
So what does each leg of the stool actually do? This table lays it out pretty clearly. First up, you have the state governments. They're the ones who give a college the basic legal permission to even exist, and they're supposed to handle consumer complaints. Next, you have the accrediting agencies. These are private groups, not the government, that are responsible for checking on academic quality. And finally, you have the federal government. Their main job is making sure schools are financially sound enough to handle all that federal student aid money.
All right, let's zoom in on that federal piece of the puzzle, because that's the financial engine driving this entire system. We're going inside the Office of Federal Student Aid, or FSA.
Now, here's something that might surprise you. The FSA isn't just some sleepy government office shuffling paperwork. No way. It was designed to operate like a massive private sector bank. I mean, it's managing that $1.6 trillion portfolio, which puts it on the same scale as giants like JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America.
And where does all that money go? Well, in fiscal year 2024 alone, the FSA pushed out over $120 billion. You can see here that most of it went to two huge programs, about $33 billion in Pell Grants, which help low-income students, and almost $86 billion in direct loans. That's a nearly 6% jump in total aid in just a single year.
So all this aid is supposed to make college more affordable. But this brings us to one of the most confusing parts of the whole process, the price tag itself. You've got the sticker price, that's the big number you see advertised. And then you have the net price, which is what a student actually pays after grants and scholarships. And let me tell you, those two numbers are almost never the same. The net price is the number that really matters for a family's budget. It's calculated by taking the total cost of attendance, and that includes tuition, fees, room, board, the whole shebang, and then you subtract any free money, like grants or scholarships that you don't have to pay back. Understanding this simple math is the key to figuring out the real cost of a degree.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a debate that has been raging in policy circles for decades. With all these billions of federal dollars flooding the system year after year, does that aid just give colleges a green light to raise their prices, knowing the government will help cover the tab?
This idea actually has a name. It's called the Bennett hypothesis. It suggests that instead of making college cheaper for students, federal aid might actually be doing the opposite. The theory is that schools see all that aid money coming in and just raise their tuition to capture it. Now, research on this is mixed, but it's a huge question that hangs over the entire system.
Okay, let's shift gears from the high-level economics and get down to the ground level, to what students and families actually experience. Because when these big, complex systems start to break down, real people are the ones who get caught in the middle.
Get ready for this, because this one statistic is wild. A study looked at thousands of financial aid award letters from different colleges and found 136 different names for the exact same federal loan. 136. How is anyone supposed to compare offers and make a smart financial decision with that kind of confusion? So the bottom line is, this isn't just about confusing language. These practices have very real consequences. When schools lump grants and loans together in an award letter, it hides the difference between free money and money you have to pay back. Some letters don't even use the word loan at all, so students can end up taking on debt without even realizing it. And incredibly, more than half the letters didn't even bother to calculate a final bottom-line cost for families.
And what happens if a student falls behind on a payment?
Well, sometimes they get stuck in what's basically a debt trap. The college can put a hold on their transcript. That means they can't transfer credits to another school or even prove to an employer that they earned their degree. So they can't get the job they need to pay off the very debt that's holding their transcript hostage.
And the system's failures aren't just financial. They're also happening in civil rights enforcement. According to a government report, in one recent year, a shocking 90% of discrimination complaints filed with the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights were just dismissed without a full investigation. 90%. So what does that mean in the real world? It means the federal safety net that's supposed to protect students with disabilities from harassment or from being denied the accommodations they need, well, it's been seriously weakened. For thousands of students and their families, the main place they could go for help just wasn't there. So, with all these challenges, it's clear things need to change. How do we fix this? How do we build a system that actually works for students? Let's take a look at some of the major reforms being proposed right now. The proposals on the table are really trying to shift the entire focus of the system. First, prioritize outcomes. That means we should judge schools based on things like graduation rates and how much their students actually earn after they graduate. Second, we need to tackle what's called credential inflation and stop pushing students into degrees they don't need. Third, make sure accreditors stay neutral and focused on academics, not ideology. And finally, give the Secretary of Education more power to step in and suspend accreditors who are clearly failing at their jobs.
And that brings us right back to where we started. This whole system, the triad, the FSA, the confusing award letters, it's a massive web of competing interests, and the ultimate question we're left with is this. With so much money on the line, can a system this big and this complicated ever be truly reformed to put the success of students ahead of everything else? That's the challenge that remains.